Welcome into the kitchen. I'm inviting you to cook with me today. So first we're going to start off with our meatloaf. I have 2 pounds of ground beef here. I have a teaspoon and a half of Himalayan sea salt. And then I have a teaspoon each of onion powder and garlic powder. A note on the meat, I have a lean ground beef here. This does help with the finished product to make sure that we don't have an overly greasy meatloaf and that it holds its shape. Now here I have about a half a teaspoon of fresh cracked pepper, 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. Now when I was growing up, my mom used ketchup here, but I like tomato sauce because it's not as sweet or tangy. And then I have some breadcrumbs, and then I want to go ahead and lightly beat my egg before putting it in so that I won't overmix it. One thing about people hate about meatloaf is if it's too dry, and that does happen if you add too much breading or if you over mix the meatloaf itself. So this is going to take me a while. I take some time, but it's a little bit relaxing to me, so I don't mind. But I am going to gently rub through this and combine this with my hands. I really think the hands are the best way to go, but I don't have any gloves right now, so forgive me. But if you do, go ahead. Otherwise, we're just going to get in here and mix it very gently until everything is combined. Now, I've been perfecting different meatloaf recipes for a while. This one is very simple, but also very flavorful. Sometimes we forget how much the simple things can be delicious, but like I said, this one's easy. You can put it together for a weeknight meal as well. Now, here I have 3 slices of bread. I like to put this at the bottom of my pan because, well, 2 reasons. One, it helps any extra oil or grease that comes from the meat. Again, I don't like that soggy meatloaf, but also it does help it keep the shape at the bottom as well. So if you have or run into that problem when doing your meatloaf, give this a try. It's a great tip. I really swear by it. Now while I am preparing the meatloaf here, I have that oven preheated at 350. Last thing we're going to do is get the sauce. Now here I do have a little bit of ketchup. I have some brown sugar, and again, this is a very simple topping. I've added barbecue sauce before, and that's delicious. Also, sometimes I will add a little bit of mustard, but here today I just have some brown sugar and ketchup, and that's it. I'm gonna get a whisk in and give this a good little mix before putting it on top of the meatloaf. Now today I am going to put the entire amount of the sauce on top of the meatloaf. Sometimes I will put half of it, bake it halfway, and then put the other on top. But today I got other stuff to cook and other stuff to do, and so I'm just gonna leave it, and it'll still turn out just as well. But it is another tip or option if you want to go that route. And like I said, the oven has been preheated at 375. I am going to get this in the oven for probably an hour. Now we're going to get started on our mashed potatoes. So this I do a couple different ways too. Here again, this is going to be an easy meal, so I'm not even going to make my dices of potatoes too small. The smaller you go though, the quicker it cooks, so just so you know. So it's just a medium dice here. And I have 3 pounds of potatoes that I've already peeled and washed, and I'm going to get this in my pot. Gonna get in just enough water to cover the potatoes and then get my garlic cloves in. Now this will help infuse the water and flavor throughout those potatoes, and then I'll get started on the peas. Okay, so the potatoes I'm bringing up to a boil until those are tender. I'm just going to finely dice an onion to get ready for my peas. I do like the onion flavor to kind of balance out the sweetness of the peas and have a little bit of bite, gives it some texture. I have some butter melted in my pan. I'm just going to get that onion in and go ahead and saute this for a few minutes, maybe like 5 to 7 minutes before we add the rest of the ingredients. And for the peas, I'm going to add 2 bags of frozen peas. You could also use canned drained peas, but I do like the texture as well as the color of the frozen one. So I'm going to go ahead and saute this for a little bit before adding in a little bit of water, and then I'm going to add in a little sugar. And let this hang out over medium heat, and we'll check back in with the potatoes. I've drained the water off, leaving the garlic in here. I'm going to add some butter and then a little bit of milk. And then I'm just going to give this a mash. It's really easy. If I was having company or a special dinner, I would throw this through the ricer to make sure that it was very, very creamy and mashed. But I just got my masher. This is going to work just fine for my Sunday dinner. And then I got some salt and pepper to taste. And the last thing I'm going to add is a little bit of parsley here for color. I just like to differentiate my mashed potatoes. So usually when I do the garlic smashed potatoes, I will add some parsley in it. Potatoes are done. We're going to finish up those peas. So they've been hanging out for a few minutes just until tender. I'm going to go ahead and season it with a little bit of garlic powder and a little bit of onion powder. All of the measurements will be listed in the description. You know I got you. Here's the sugar that I mentioned earlier. I want to make sure I don't add it too soon because I don't want it to cook in that sugar. So I do it when it's about halfway done. Last thing is meatloaf. It's out. It's been cooking for about an hour. I'm just going to let this cool for about 15 minutes. And that is all, folks. Thank you for hanging out in the kitchen with me today and making this delicious meal. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. And if you like full cook with me dinners, go ahead and like this video as well. Until the next time.